Boom.
Welcome, Adam. I saw you with about 3 seconds wolfing down some soup.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm sneaking in that dinner before we jump on the stream here, as it often is. I mean, you have the benefit that I think you're midday right now, right?
Yeah, it's 1 p.m. here.
Yeah. So I'm looking at 7 p.m. So it's like, can I scarf something down? It's good to be back on to talk with Replicator Rob.
Yeah, man. It's good having you. It's been a while. I thought we might as well stream because I always have questions because you come at crowdfunding from a bit of a different kind of mindset than I guess I'd say the majority of us do. So it's interesting to get your take on it. But we'll say hello, chat. We've got Aerith Sagas in the house. I'm going to get you on soon too as well, Aerith. I want to pick your brain. Bullet Ninja Hangleman, Von Stugel, Faust Scalepool, and Yodam Darkstar, Nicholas Greer. Thanks for popping in, guys. It's a last-minute stream, so if you feel like sharing it out on socials, that would be great. We're up against some real stiff competition today. Especially
we are
for a last-minute stream. Lord Raven's in the house. What's news, mate? You just don't stop doing stuff. What's going on?
Yeah, no, I can't resist, Rob. I've become addicted to it, in a real serious way. I'm someone might consider, if you checked my spending on it, I have a problem. But I think I've had such a sad, I should say it like this. Rob, I met with a good friend of mine. He writes television here in Hollywood as well. He writes for Cartoon Network and for Disney Animation. Mm-hmm. And he and I were talking, and he was talking about a new TV show he has for Disney and how, he feels like, I'm actually just selling toys. I'm not an artist anymore. I'm a craftsman who sells toys through animation. And he said, if I really wanted to do something artistic that had meaning in it, and he didn't know I was doing comic books, I would make a comic book, because then you could make it exactly what you wanted it to be. Mm-hmm. And I smiled at him and I said, that's why I'm making comic books as well as TV, because most of the time we're just trying to navigate the complications of studios and make very little art. And so making comic books is a really beautiful way to make something artistic and something that's heartfelt. It is the story that really lives inside your heart and head. And you don't always get to do that with television because there's so many people in the mix, right? I was writing a series for Netflix a little while back, and I was on it for 8 months, and I can't tell you how many times I was lead writer on it that they 180'd the direction, right? And so at some point you realize it's okay. Don't love things, just do your best that you can, and hopefully, the ship, and hopefully you get through, because you're dealing with a lot of creatives in the mix. So I think that's why I can't quite stop, because it's just so fun. And the people in the chat and people like you, Rob, are so cool and are fun to hang out with.
Faust says Rob was born with on, but no one knows what happens. Man, if you're going to take a shot, make sure you get the spelling right, dude.
Yeah.
That's it. You just missed. So is that kind of like why you do comics? Because you can do what you want to do and people can't wreck it?
I think you've said it best, Rob, is that it's a way to tell that story that you really want to tell in the way you want it. And you don't have all the complications that come with, a democratic version of it, right? Where you, and that's really why, and I feel like, Rob, and there's something kind of fun, like, here's the Kill Journal, and then there's the website, right? And I can hold this in my hand, I've made over 100 episodes of television, but I can't hold any of them in my hands. And so this is fun
that's
to do
cool.
that. Yeah. And for the record, anybody who backed this, for the record, I know it got stopped in Singapore because of COVID, but it's back on the boat and it gets here October 23rd. You can't imagine what it's been like getting things out of China right now, just with all the global supply chain problems, like the port in Long Beach. Like if you go to it right now, I mean, there's so many boats off the port. You think it's the apocalypse. but that's a fun thing too. You get to hold it, right, Rob? You get to, like, I'm sure you feel that too. Like when you hold Replicator, you're like, oh, it's a real. I made something real. And also too, like you're looking here at the Shopify store, Rob, and like, because part of the thinking of it like financially, I'm sure you've thought about it too, is it's like the campaigns are a really amazing thing because backers come in and people support the vision. But then what's like the second phase, right? After the campaign has ended, how do you continue to get the story out there? How do you continue to generate some revenue on it so you can keep doing it, right? And how do you keep making that happen? And so I think that's really what's in my heart, Rob, is to get this engine till it is, financially self-sustaining and it respects the audience, respects the fans, and builds these stories. And also too, Rob, we acquired Hammer from Jason Kreger.
You acquired it.
Yes. So in that case, that's not a book that I made or I wrote. It's a book that Jason wrote and drew, and it is spectacular. If anybody has not been seeing the art coming down the pipeline from that book, he drew the Kill Journal, and we've been talking about Hammer for a while. And so, so we're going to expand it, right, to acquiring other books as well, to try and give, other creators a second life as well, after the campaign. So
that's interesting. So kind of like a little publishing house type thing.
That's right. So it's a publishing company, full on. We have a warehouse and a fulfillment center, and the Shopify store. If you order it, like I don't have to be involved. If you bought something, it would ship out of the warehouse without me having to package it at my house. And all the 8th has arrived. Kill Journal's on its way, and then you can see that other thing there called Sunder as well too. This is a role-playing game like Dungeons and Dragons, which we created. It has cool miniature figurines as well. This was years in the making. You think making a comic book is hard? Try making a role-playing game.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, try. But it's got, but it's the full package, of the experience. It's got campaign modules. It's got the keeper's screen. It's got a novelization as well. So it was quite a journey to build that, and it's been really, really cool because I feel like the games are a really exciting way to also tell stories and experience stories. So we're trying to kind of straddle both, Rob. I mean, maybe I'm crazy for that, but.
You're a little bit crazy, I think. But Eric says, Hammer looks great. Jason is such a great artist. I'm glad you're helping him publish, Adam.
Yeah,
Crackhead's
thank you, Eric.
In the house as well.
Lord Crackhead.
Like, some artists are just good artists. They're not great at promoting books. Is that is that what you're going to kind of take on with Hammer?
Yeah, so the with Hammer, the idea of it is we'll take care of fulfillment and getting everything delivered on this book, on everything that he's got to for the campaign, and then what we'll do is when he gets to book 2, right, we'll make a cool hardcover sort of premium edition of what's like 100 pages for Hammer, and we'll help him launch through the campaign. Run it through the Shopify store. I'll take care of all the pre-press, the printing, the fulfillment, that mission engine. And then we'll keep doing that with Jason because he feels like there's kind of 5 volumes in this tale. And so that's what that is. And also, I've been sketching the beginnings of what could be a board game, a skirmish battle game set in the world of Hammer. So we're going to also try and expand it to beyond just the comic, but into a game. I really feel like that's a special story. Once you read it, anybody who's backed it, or if anybody who's seen the art that Jason's pumping out there, I wish I had some handy on me. You can see how he's really, it's literally like it's a post Ragnarok tale. So it's like, this is like Mad Max meets Thor, right? And Thor has been killed off, and this other woman grabs the hammer, and the gods have all fallen, and the world is in this post-apocalyptic setting. So like the trolls or the Druger, instead of them being like old trolls, they're like
he's roboted out or I've roboted out. So one of the two. I'm going to assume it's him, but I could be wrong. Wrench me, football melon mohawk. This is Hammer. So this is cool. I've seen Jason on a few streams, but haven't really got into the book. I don't know why, because it looks good. It is him, Rob. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, like, this piece of art looks fantastic. Look at that. Sensational. It's such a shame that Hollywood has destroyed this hairstyle, because I quite like it on women. It looks cool, but now it's just like an SJW haircut, which is just frustrating. Oh, he's dropped off. So it's just me on a stream by myself. That is sensational. And none of the images are loading, which is just fantastic. RIP Adam. Let's hope he pops back in. But yeah, like, look how much work this guy's putting in, man. He's done 2 campaigns already, and he's got his 3rd one coming out October 12th. The 8th has been delivered. I've got a copy on my bookshelf over there. The Kill Journal is on its way, and then Kids and Monsters is coming October 12th. And I know Adam is going to be frustrated that the Kill Journal hasn't hit people's hands because of shipping delays. Would that be right?
Yeah. No, it was super heartbreaking for me, because the boat had left. Everything was going to be having arrived at the end of September. Everyone was going to get their books, and it was just like, and shipping over the seas. I don't know if anybody's ever done it. It's just like getting communication in and out is like Rob, it's like a nightmare on how slow people are to respond. And then it's like, oh no, the boat had a COVID breach, and so it's held up in Singapore, and it's like, oh my gosh. So we lost so much headway, and but the books will be here on October 23rd, or at least they're promising now, and the boat is back in motion, and so people will get it. And the masks, fortunately, the masks are all done. They were done locally. Well, I shouldn't say locally. They were done in New York, and so the masks are on the way to my house right now, and I'm going to be mailing those out. So people who back the mask will get to wear it for Halloween. You will get that. I know Aerith is totally right. It's like boats are like. You go to the pier at Long Beach and you're like, wait, there's like 50 boats just going out into the ocean. Like it feels like you're in,
and what, they're just anchored there, like just
there's 62. Yeah, there's 62 boats behind. Usually, like the port in Long Beach is a really effective port, Rob. So we'd be like, 1 or 2 boats out, right? But now we're talking like 60 boats out. Crazy. So I mean. It's nuts. So it's just, a large part of it is due to like COVID protocols that slow everything down, and hours have been reduced. And yeah, so Mr. Vaughn, so they are a complete story. Like, so the 8th here is another, this is my first, was where Rob and I met, it's a heartfelt tale. But this is kind of cool because anybody who's seen this, the 8th, what we delivered, was a, hardcover. A deluxe edition is what people backed. And
is it just like there's not enough workers to unload the boats? Is that what's happening?
It is, Rob. It's really kind of a complicated thing of like troubles with the unions at the boats, people not working around the clock, supply chain holdups, COVID protocol slowdowns, and like boats getting held up in different ports also too because of COVID. I mean, there's like 20 things to blame. People are like kind of a bit panicked here in the United States about it. Like Christmas, they're saying most people's, usually the stores are packed for Christmas. They're saying most people should prepare that they're not going to get what they wanted for Christmas.
That's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a shame.
It's all political, Rob.
Yeah, and there's definitely some politics. I mean, you got to be kidding yourself to think otherwise. But the 8th, right? So it's like, then what we did is we did a trade paperback version of it that you can get on the website now, and so this is a complete story. This is the full thing. Is a 224 pager. So I started the opposite way, Rob, as you would say, like, oh, super thing. I said, I'm going to start with a 224 page graphic novel just to get my feet wet. But the 8th is an entire story, and the Kill Journal is also a complete tale. Now, the Kill Journal ends with a little bit more of a teaser for what Volume 2 could be, but it is a complete tale. It's 132. It's 132 pages, and so once again, I came in, really, really small page count stuff, and so on the site, here you can pre-order them. And then we have Kids and Monsters coming up. And Kids and Monsters, Rob, I think I'm leaning more towards your training. It's 72 pages, smaller. It's only Volume 1. There's going to be a Volume 2 for sure. And so, but also too, Rob, I think it's sometimes about creating value for people. Like with the Kids and Monsters, it's going to be an oversized hardcover, like a European comic. So it's an A4. Yeah. So it's A4 sized. It's 8.3 by yeah. So which I think is, I feel like, when people are dropping their $25, right, plus shipping, that you want to give them the most value you can possibly give them, right? And you want to give them something that feels memorable and worth crowdfunding, right? And they can't be found in the LCS. And so I think that I try to continue that. And I think that it served me well. I think I know, since we started the website and selling direct, I think it's helped that we have a premium product, because it's for somebody who's not in CG, somebody who's not maybe in the comic books community, that's just like, oh, I'd read a graphic novel. It makes it a little more appealing because it's feels like a special item. Because that's what we found on the 8th. Interesting enough, Rob, is we've talked about many times. I ran a lot of ads for that, and so it brought in a lot of people who were not traditional comic book fans or buyers. I had several people, probably 4 or 5 people, DM me saying, "Hey, I've never bought a graphic novel in my life, and I backed this."
Nice.
And I said, I feel like there's an audience for that out there. And so I was trying to, if you make something special, that to help sort of push them over the line. Part of my thoughts. I could be wrong.
So you've done each campaign. You've kind of had like I like to call it like a hero perk. You had the hero is something about the campaign. You had the hardcover case or the slip case. I don't know if it's hardcover, but the slip case for the 8th.
It's hardcover.
The Kill Journal is a hardcover book, but it has all that
leather bound
engraving on it. It looks wicked.
Yeah.
Do you have a plan for what's it called? Kids and Monsters?
Kids and Monsters, yes.
And how do you feel that those two things, like those two examples, have worked for you? Like, is that something you're going to do every campaign to some extent now? Have like a hero item?
Yeah, I think so. So I think that I want to try and at least create some really special value each time. Thank you, Yodam. Another one of my amazing backers, is to create something special each time. I remember my very first book that I crowdfunded, that I backed as a backer. And when it came to me in the mail, it just came like in an envelope, and it was just a standard trade paperback. And I won't name the name of who I got it from. But I remember being kind of underwhelmed. I was like, wait, that's it? There wasn't even any fancy wrapping. There wasn't even a wax seal,
Oh.
There wasn't something that made it feel like this was worth feeling like you were on the inside track too, and you got a little special treatment for it.
Yeah.
And I think when I jumped into being a creator in crowdfunding, I wanted to create something that each time there's a little special flavor. Aerith, I think, is Ryan over there, the Aerith Song, is doing something special too. He does the tape boxes, right? Makes it feel like you were a part of something special. You do it with your wax seals, even. It's like when you get it, you feel like you got something that was special. And I think that for crowdfunding, that has a lot of value.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's not just the book; it's the experience of getting the book and opening it up for the first time and being excited about it. And I've got packages from creators that I've opened, and it's just been so underwhelming that I didn't want to even read the book afterwards. That's a little bit of it, dramatization, but it is kind of true.
Right?
Is there any books that have blown you away with that kind of stuff, apart from your own?
Yeah, I think that I appreciated when I got Warts and All. That big colorful box, that was all done with salamandroids and the whole thing, and it was bubble wrapped inside, and it had this really nice slipcase on top of the green hardcover, right? Not slipcase, wrap, a beautiful glossy wrap cover to it, and it was a really nice experience when it landed. Right, Sovereign Wolf I think was nice that way too.
Yeah, Sovereign Wolf was great.
And he did something really special just with the box that made you go like you said, Rob. You're like, oh damn, I'm gonna, because he got a stack, right? Every good comic book collector has a stack of books they're reading through, right? And that just like moves it to the top. You're like, I'm reading that one next, actually.
Yeah. That's right. That's cool.
And so go for it.
You're in Hollywood, dude. You make shows for Netflix. Have you had any pushback from for hanging out with us?
Zero.
Oh wow. Okay. Do they not know, or they don't care?
I don't. For the number one thing is I don't think anyone even knows. Like they don't even comprehend what it is.
Yeah.
Like because the truth be told of it is that like even my friends in the business who like work at Warner Brothers, collect comics. Like when I try to explain it to them, they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about, dude. Like they don't even know. And it's like, these are guys who are like in their 40s, been collecting since they were 15, work at Warner Brothers and have no idea. Like right there, like, I don't even know what you're talking about, bro. And so I think that in many ways, I think it certainly happens in America, and I'm sure probably in Australia too, happens where you get like a real small crowd of people on Twitter that make it feel like just everybody's in on this. And just the world is coming to an end. And really, actually, people at home are like, what? I don't even know what you're talking about, bro. I'm actually not giving it that much thought in my life. I'm actually giving it zero thoughts.
Was it a concern when you first started looking into it?
To be honest, it was in this. It was for like maybe a day or two. Well, I remember the first time I hadn't even heard this. I hadn't even heard CG. I hadn't even heard that word. I was like, when somebody said it to me, I was like, huh. I didn't even know what it was. Like what? I didn't know what it stood for or what it was.
That's the exact same for me. I had no idea. Someone's like, "Oh, be careful, they're comic scare." I'm like, "What is that?"
Yeah. Well, I was the same with you. It was like a total mystery. I was like, what? Because I chose Indiegogo, interesting enough, as a platform because they were really good to us when I was doing a TV show called Will Wheaton's Tabletop. It was a celebrity board gaming show. Google financed the first couple seasons, and then season 3, they stepped out of their premium platform, and we went and crowdfunded it, right? And Indiegogo gave us a better deal than Kickstarter. They really encouraged us to come to the platform, and they were just better folks all around, right? From that standpoint. And so I thought, oh man, these are. I had like a loyalty to them because they really stood up for us, right? And then that's kind of how I found my way into it. And so I think, and in some ways, Rob, I think that's maybe a good thing, right? Because I think the thing about it is, in a lot of ways, hopefully is the fans don't even have to think about it, right? Because in the sense that hopefully backers and buyers of books can just say, I want that cool thing. And they don't have to process it through a political, filter of who am I pleasing? Am I virtue signaling to someone? Do you know what I mean? They get to say, oh, the Replicator, that looks cool. But yeah, so that was kind of my first experience. And then, of course, then you Wikipedia it and you're like, ooh, that looks pretty serious. And then I was just, you're like, how come I have never heard of this?
I know, right? It's exactly what I did too. I'm like, oh, let's go. I might as well let's Google it and see what comes up. You go to a wiki and oh, geez, that's a bit full on.
Right? You're like, at first I was like, whoa, how did I miss this? How did I, like you're saying, how did I not know about this? It's like, this seems kind of crazy. I called a couple of my friends who had comics. You pass it around, they're like, oh, I don't know anything about it. And you're like, what is, and then I was with, hey, Phil, what's happening, baby? And so then, and then I get talking to like Brian Kreisgau about it. And he and I are just talking about it. And he's just such a nice guy. And I'm like, I think this is a bunch of like mumbo jumbo. Like this Wikipedia page statement, I think is it kind of like a bunch of junk about this, right? And clearly that's what it is, right? It's just like a, I don't know who wrote that statement. I don't know who wrote that statement. But it's, you couldn't support it by real facts, you know. So it's just, especially since things such as the expressions in the United States, technically hate group is a, you know, it's a legal term. The government has to verify that. That can't just be, you just can't just give that to someone because it you know, like that, like that's like the government has given that to like Nazis, KKK, like people with like violent histories, right? You can't just give it to somebody who says things you don't like on Twitter. You know, that's not real. But so anyways,
what do we need to do from here, do you think? You do Shopify now, you've got a website going. How is that working out for you sales wise? I think like there's only a couple of people really doing much after like the campaign. Like Ethan has an eBay store, Erith has a Shopify store. How is it actually working out for you, like financial wise?
So we're just in the early phases of it right now. And so I'll probably in 3 months have a better answer on that, but we are generating real sales from it. And fortunately, and also too, one thing that's interesting is the game, the board game, the Sunder game has done really well, and it's brought a lot of attention to the site. And I think that there's some good cross-pollination there. So I think what I would say is I honestly feel very optimistic about it. Like, can I tell you for sure it's a grand slam home run yet? Not yet. But is it working? Are sales really happening? We're running ads. We're doing the whole thing. And I think it's a real thing. I mean, it's kind of like a, because I think, Rob, to build it, there's kind of 3-pronged approach, right? Like one is you have the Shopify store and you're running traditional ads on Facebook and Google, right? Like that's like your basic minimum. And as that momentum starts to build, then there is, you know, publication, you know, conventions, et cetera, to continue to build the momentum, right? So I think we're kind of in early phases of it. But I am very optimistic. I'm very optimistic about it. And I think that also too, because like imagine this is called phase 2, the store, right? Mm-hmm. And then phase 3 is then brick and mortar. That's not necessarily my brick and mortar, but it's Barnes and Nobles, it's Books A Million, it's other retail platforms as well. And then phase 4 is like other territories, right? Europe, etc. So we're just getting started on it, but I think currently the numbers seem promising.
And you always hear this: don't run Facebook ads, don't do that kind of stuff. It's a waste of money. You would disagree?
I would disagree. Now, on the 8th, here, interesting thing though, Rob, I was on the 8th, the Facebook ads were really effective, right? And on the Kill Journal, they were not. And the Kill Journal, just by virtue of the nature of the content, it being a horror story, the ads, yo. Thank you, Leroy. We needed that, Leroy. But the ads didn't really work terribly well, Rob, on Kill Journal, just by virtue of the graphic nature of it, the horror nature of it. It was really hard to kind of hook ads. We kept getting rejected ads all the time. We kept getting dropped into bottoms of algorithms. And so and then I tried other ads, like I did like banner ads, like on specific websites. We did something on Comic Book Resource. We did something on another one on a horror website. And so, but the 8th, they were really effective. And on Asunder, the board game we did, they were really effective too. Hey, Hex, how you doing, man? really, really effective. And so I think they really do work. And also too, I think when you look at studios such as like TKO Presents, that is a graphic novel company, and they built their entire engine on Facebook ads, right, and Google ads, and then once again also journalism, and then conventions, and then et cetera. And so I think there's no other way to do it, right? Now, obviously, you want to get influencers in the mix. That's part of it. But how else do you build it, right? And I mean, obviously, now that we have these things are complete, I'm starting to shop them in Hollywood as well, with the hope that we could some of them could be made into a motion picture. And I've got an inside track on that, fortunately. But yeah, so that's kind of the whole gamut with it, Rob. We're trying to do.
How's Chris going?
It's interestingly, because you should go to the Kids and Monsters page really quickly, that pre-launch page, and you can listen to Chris from if you watch the video, you can listen to Chris.
Okay, I can't play it now because of my setup at the moment. But
okay.
I will check it and make sure it's okay.
I mean, there's kind of an echo because it's from the basement of my house, where it was recorded, where I've got him trapped. But it's
that's exactly right. Have you let him out of the basement? That's the question.
Yeah, well, maybe after this campaign. But with Kids and Monsters, Rob, I think also too, what's really incumbent upon us as creators in this, and I try to do this with Kids and Monsters and Kill Journal and the Eighth, is to build a story that connects with people's heart and gives them a sense of fantasy, right? At least that's what I love in comics. And so with Kids and Monsters, it's about kids who are trying to survive their parents' looming divorce, right? And anyone who's been a child of parents who get a divorce or get on the verge of that, how frightening and difficult that is. It's maybe the real threat to a young kid, in many ways. And so they're trying to cope with that, and they get pulled into this war between monsters and beasts, that's trying to rip the world in two, much like their families being ripped in two. Kids trapped in bases. And as a result of that, you get this emotional, heartfelt tale set into this fantastical setting, which has action and adventure, but it has a beating heart to it. And I think those stories tend to be the ones that live with us the longest. I think that stories that are just like, hey, go shoot that guy. We're getting in a fight. I've got cool armor. I don't know that those hang around. I think that, speaking of a book you wrote called Replicator, I think you tried to not necessarily infuse that sort of like childlike essence into it, but there is like a totalitarian statement being made in your book, which is surprisingly, because it's almost kind of like you predicted something that might happen in your own country. You might have predicted it.
Who could have thought?
You could have thought that it's inconceivable to me, Rob. Every day when I see the news and Bancroft's posts about it, I'm like, we are in Replicator, right?
Yeah.
Where is the sense, but like, I think that's what, at least for me, when I think about any good book, I think about that I've left, there is this really nice emotional arc tucked into a fantastical setting.
So you've got 3 projects, 2 are done. Which is your favorite?
Wow. Wow. Well, I think, I think they each have a really special place in me, because they, as an artist, you have lots of, dark corners, you have childlike corners, you have all kinds of corners, and you write about them. But I think the one I think that it's sitting really in my heart the most is Kids and Monsters, this new one. And I think that because in some ways, like the Eighth and the Kill Journal was kind of some way like getting like the dark bits out of me, right? And then Kids and Monsters is a little bit more of this like I shouldn't say softer, but it's this more, there's a little bit more innocence to it. I think that is, it really has gotten me excited. And what Maxi Dallow is doing with the pages is just out of this world. And the colors that Mike Spicer's doing, I know you preferred the lines over the colors when we talked about them, Rob. And I can show a few pages. I don't know if you want to let me share screen or how you want to.
Yeah, of course. I just on the Kill Journal. I love this panel, man. That's just fantastic. He's trying to put his head back together again.
Yes, I'm glad that you caught that. I think it's my favorite in the book because it shows just the struggle that he's having, that he's so in shock as a father, right? That he's somehow trying to fix his child who clearly can't be fixed. It is sat with me well. There's another, the whole time we were drawing this, Jason kept waiting for a full page spread that was just one page, right? And that had no other insert panels. I did some cool doubles page spreads with it, but this was the one that Jason was like, finally, you let me build just a single full page piece of art. And there's another panel I love because it just with the words when you arrive at that stage in the story, what it says. But with let me just pull up some of Maxi Dallow's inks that he's doing, and I think this is really where you start to see the magic of a traditional artist, and what they do maybe or can do over a digital artist. And when you look at these pages, right, this is nice. These are beautiful pages, right? And then, like you're saying, like part of me doesn't want to color them, right? And that's why the book, you can get it both ways. There'll be a black and white and color version, and not an artist edition where it's just the lines, but one that's lettered and is the full story. You start to see like how much emotion and storytelling is happening in these lines, and like the way he smudges the background, right? You can see like his thumbprint in some of these black areas, right?
That's cool,
right? And there's something just beautiful about that what he's doing with that, and you can see like the emotion he's been able to capture. Like when you look at that bottom right panel there with the look in Gatsby's eyes, he's realizing his math teacher is a cultist, right? Or he thinks, and he discovers there's something evil in the girl's bathroom. Nice. There is these cracks in the earth, right? And this is where like the red beasts are sneaking out. And then this is his math teacher who is summoning these beasts, ripping apart the world and pulling in these red beasts.
How are you finding time to write all this stuff?
So that is a tricky thing. So, and what I do, Robin, what I do is a slower side of writing because I draw the layouts. So what I do is I take my Surface tablet and I write the comic book by hand. So I have the page and I draw the layout while I'm writing the dialogue, like in the margins around it. And then I turn that into the Word document, becomes a script, and send the layouts to the artist. Now, my layouts are not impressive in regards to like, the magic that look is Maxi, right? With the way he creates all this wonderful lines and texture and etc. But it helps us work faster. And also too, he sees what I was actually writing. I know the red beasts actually don't make it into the girls' bathroom, just the math teacher. But so that way, so it's more time consuming that way because you're trying to think it through visually before you write the dialogue, and sometimes it goes a bit back and forth. And so, I mean, the way it tends to work out, Rob, is like I have a job where I'm freelancing, so I'll be on something and I'll be slammed, and then the moment I'm not, I'm writing, or I'll be sometimes on set, Rob, when it's a lighter day, and it might be I'm because I do both commercials and television commercials, like my in between series. And sometimes you'll be on a commercial where you're like, okay, great, the client's not paying any attention here for the next hour, and I'll be like drafting a page.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
So you just fit it in wherever you can.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other way. And when these pages come back, it's so satisfying. It really, really is worth it. And you can see Maxie is just killing these pages, and it's it's just the magic of what happens when you put ink on a piece of paper that's it's physical.
Oh, these are great. That's
right?
fantastic. Yeah, that's great. How are you finding your artists? Because you've hired a whole bunch of different people over the course of it so far. So how's that happening for you?
Yeah, Rob. So the first artist I had, Joran, who did the 8th, he was doing storyboards for me and other artwork for me before we did the comic. And so he and I had a really good rapport before he took on the comic book. And then once he took on comic book, we took this whole big journey over a couple of years making it. And I took almost in some ways for granted how reliable he is. He's just like this good, honest guy. He lives in the Netherlands, and he just came through with all his commitments, right? And just delivered. And then there was another artist, because I've been between the animation and working on other games, I've worked with a lot of other artists, and so I would reach out to them and finding people on ArtStation, and also then getting into the community here, just scoping each other's work. And Maxie's work caught my eye while I was doing the 8th, right when I got in. The way his lines were it's like, ooh, I want to figure out how to work with him. So what I did with the Kill Journal, the Kill Journal has these little 6-page dossier stories in it throughout it. Like it'll have an issue, and then there'll be a little short story that will, they'll have these little stories here in the back of each chapter that will then give the origin of that particular character. And I've hired 4 different artists and 4 different writers to do them, so that I could really stretch out and work with people a bit before venturing on a book. Because I'm sure, Rob, you switched artists in your story, right? So you know what it's like to maybe the complication of an artist, or maybe losing an artist.
Mm-hmm.
It's really something, right? And so now kind of my commitment is that I only would work with an artist that I've worked with in some way, right? Like either, commissions or some piece, so I can really get a feel for them. And so that's how I've been doing it, right? And while I was doing the Kill Journal, I commissioned a ton of art, just one sheets that I used for ads, and it helped me reach out and connect with other artists. So I've been kind of doing it by hiring them, which is a way, I think, in some ways, to also show to them that I'm serious, right? And so that's kind of how I've done it. And really, I'm always keeping eyes and tabs on who people are tweeting and retweeting for art, and and DMing them and connecting with them, making sure I'm following what they're creating.
That's clever. So you're basically testing people first, and then if they're if they're easy enough to work with and produce good enough work, you're hiring them for a full book. That's smart.
That's right.
Have you had any horror stories?
Yeah, the Kill Journal was a major horror story. So I had an artist who had done some work for me on the RPG game. He's also done a lot of other really great work. But he was doing one-off images for me, and I didn't quite realize what was going to happen once I needed a lot of images in a row, a lot of pages. And so we started the Kill Journal. He did 12 pages, and it took months and months and months and months. We got so far behind. This is before the campaign even launched. So we just ended up months behind, and he's not delivering after not delivering. And we're 10 days out from the campaign. And I was supposed to be like 40, 50 pages in, and we have 12 pages. Damn. So I'm on a stream with Jason Krager, and he's like, Adam, I'd love to do something for your book, The Kill Journal. And I called him afterwards, and I said, how would you like to do the book? And And so what ended up happening is that artist, because you pay 50% down, and I did it in like 22-page increments, but I lost a ton of money. I had 12 pages of art that are wasted, and I literally started the book over. And boy, that was disappointing. That was a massive setback from the production standpoint, which is why it took longer, to get the book out, etc. But I'm so grateful I found Jason. He's amazing. I've loved the journey with him, and he and I are going to keep working together for years to come. But yeah, it was a total nightmare, Rob.
It's tough, man. I've said this so many times, but I find that like when you start having problems with an artist, it never gets better, it only gets worse. So you probably made the right choice to go a different direction. I got a couple of questions for you. What do you think all creators aren't doing that they should be, like the Shopify store, that kind of stuff? Do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think that I've backed over 170 books now, right?
Mm-hmm.
For anyone out there, I'm like $7,000 into backing books and books among us. So I read everyone that comes in, and I don't say that to boast. I say that to say, hey, I'm committed to this. Like I'm in. I got your back. You got mine. We're in this together. And I think just to me, there's kind of two things, Rob, and you tell me what you think. One is they aren't rewriting their book.
Mm-hmm.
One, like Kids and Monsters, I'm 2 drafts on layouts and 6 on script. I'm 8 drafts in, multiple levels of feedback. I have an editor. And I feel like that's one of that lots of people have art, good ideas, but in the creation process, it wasn't refined enough to one. And then 2, I think that for many of us, and John Hervey and I were talking about this when he came into town a couple weeks ago. Well, he's like, I'm not thinking about a long game. Like I'm just like kicking these books out, and I'm working my regular job, and I don't have a long game. And it's not necessarily everybody needs to have a long game. Like it doesn't need to be. Thank you. That everybody needs to want to be a publisher. I don't think that's it. But do you have a phase 2 plan? Is it partnering up with a publisher? Is it trying to find another distribution platform? Is it continuing the story on Webtoons? Is it some way that all of the work that you've put in and time and energy can live on? Or maybe, and for some people that may not be what they want to do, and that's fine because this is indie comics, right? And so you can this can be what you want it to be for you. But if you feel like you want to continue to do this and you want to continue to connect with audience members, because I think that's what's in my heart, Rob. Like what gets me the most excited is not a big campaign number. It's when somebody DMs you back and says, from who I've never met, who lives in another state, who says, "Oh, dude, I read the 8th and I loved it."
Mm-hmm.
Right? At least for me, that's just like that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
And so it's to be able to get it out there in some ways, and finding those ways. And I know it's hard because most everybody's working a day job. Most everybody's paying for it themselves, and it's hard enough just to get the book out in the first place. And I think that what we have right here now is one of the most unique things. In Hollywood, there was this time they talked about the Zoetrope Society or Zoetrope Studios. I don't know if you're familiar with this expression, but if you can imagine, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, and Martin Scorsese were all friends, and they were all living together. And Francis Ford Coppola is the one that had more personal money, and they had like this barn, and they would meet together and talk stories and how to direct better. And it was a Zoetrope Society, right? It's kind of like a thing of legend. It's impossible to think that like the 5 most successful filmmakers of all time were just actually all friends sitting around in a room together.
It's crazy. That's real, is it?
That's real. That's real.
Wow.
And it blows your mind when you think about it. That literally, that it's and it's before they were what they are, right? It's one thing if later they all come together, right? But it's before Jaws, it's before Star Wars, it's before Raging Bull, and so it's like,
it's crazy.
you know, it's right. But I feel like what's happening right now in comics, we have that in this community. Like we have a chance to build something really special that carries on, and so I'm happy to be a part of it. And I think that taking advantage of that and seeking advice from others, I'm constantly, Rob, I'm asking your advice as about things, just because no one knows everything.
So refining the work that they're putting out before it gets out into the public is one. Two, seeking advice. Here's another question for you. How do we grow Comicsgate?
Well, I guess there's two questions to ask. Do you want to grow the community, or do you want to grow the sales of the books?
I just want more
what's in
people
it for
to know
you?
about it.
Okay. So I think that there's I've thought a lot about this too, right? Because I feel really indebted to a lot of people who are a part of the community who really helped me out. And one is, I feel like there needs to be some champions in the mainstream. And what I mean by that is there needs to be some players who connect with the group. It's whether it's books from this community that become films, it's because major players in the mainstream industry say, no, this is cool, I'm cool with it, so that we can cross this threshold. And I don't mean so that we can cross the threshold of this bottleneck that's happening, right? Because there's a complete publicity bottleneck, right? I hired a publicist. I don't think I've told anybody this. I hired a publicist for the Kill Journal. I paid them money. They set up interviews, and then they sent me an email, and I had done a stream with Shay in the pre-launch talking about it over Red Valkyrie, right? And then she sent me this email saying, hey, listen, you're a part of a hate group, I can't work with you, and then soured all the interviews. And this is somebody I had paid.
Wow.
Right? And it's pretty hard to like, if you look at my body of work in TV, I'm pretty far left in like the characters I've made. I have the most popular TV show in the world with a leading gay male. You can't really get me in like the game of like some of these sort of tactics that people use. It's like, bro, you can't put that on me. My history just tells you you're wrong about me. But that's kind of what happened. And so there is an active effort to suppress the existence of it, right? And it's why the Wikipedia page is the way it is. Because if you're just a curious person, what is that Comicsgate? Then click. Oh, you're just going to step away from it, right? Because you just got hit by this really bad press. And if you're just dabbling your toes, you're just clicking. So I feel like there needs to be, and it happens for most niche things, right? Is it somebody who's too powerful to sync says, that's cool. It's like, it's Kanye West saying, I like that. It's, and so, so these are, so I feel like in many ways, it's trying to find inroads to people and places that aren't us, right? Because I think the danger is if Comicsgate builds a wall around it, then we'll just become we'll start to become the problem that we once got away from, right? It'll have rules, it'll have walls, it'll have like a boss, and I don't know if that's what makes it special, right? I think what makes it special is you created your own book, Rob. You made your own thing. Bancroft made his own thing. And what's cool is that there's no boss, right? Everybody's their own boss. And so I think that trying to find ways to bridge that gap so that there can so the idea of it can spread more effectively, or otherwise it's just it's a counterculture fight, right? It becomes a polarizing, unfortunately, a polarizing fight. Now I'm fine to do that myself because I'm a passionate creator, and I think it's absurd, the idea that people want to try and own art and like how art should be done. I think that's just absolutely absurd. No one can own comics. Cave people were drawing sequential art. You can't have it. Like, you can't say these are the rules, especially since manga outsells Western comics, 25-1. So it's like, and those guys for some reason are never invited to the conversation, right? And so I think that, so because I just think it's such an, what the idea of like silencing artists is just so insane, right? But
so
what do you think though, Rob? I mean, what's your take on it?
I'm not sure. I think definitely interacting with people outside of it and building bridges is probably a good option. Just so people see the truth for what it is. Like, I mean, we're a supposed hate group that has people of different colored skins, of different sexual preferences, of everything under the sun. Yet we're meant to hate these people, which makes no sense. They're here. They're having fun here. Yeah. I mean, I'm not 100% sure how to do it. It doesn't seem that many people are reaching outside, and that's fine. We don't have to at this stage.
No.
We can just do what we're doing, and that's cool as well. But I mean, you're in Hollywood. You could probably kidnap a celebrity and force them to say something.
Celebrities right now are, they're in such a crazy under the gun system. And I will be honest with you, I do have a graphic novel I am doing with a very famous celebrity who I can't say the name
Really?
yet. The deal is inking, but a household name level celebrity that I am doing. I've already written it. We've gone through very lengthy contracting time and putting it together, and it's a full household name, dude. It's not a small time guy. Everybody in this chat will know them, know their films, know who they are. And so, and I think that the secret will be in crafting this, will be in trying to make this. No, it doesn't. Lord Abner doesn't rhyme with that. It rhymes with grapes. But the thing about it is, but building, I think, a story, a book, and a thing that just takes it above the fight, right? It just takes it above the Twitter mob, right? In the same way, when you go into Barnes and Nobles, the manga section is packed, and those kids don't even know what the Twitter mob is saying. The diehards are talking about the, certain appropriations of certain characters in Marvel or DC. They don't know, and it's just, you just want it to go jump over that wall instead of trying to fight those folks, because those are the folks that you don't win over, right? And they're not the ones we're trying to reach. We're trying to reach people who are in the middle, who maybe have no opinion about it and just want fun stories. And so my hope is that this book and this event can hop over that wall, Rob, and then just cool kids are just like, oh, that's a cool book. And then the conversation, because they're trying to contain it, to keep it down, so it can't just mill into the mainstream house, because they know they can't control the 17-year-old boy from Wisconsin. They're not going to control that guy. He doesn't, right? And so he doesn't even have a Twitter account. He's on TikTok, by the way. So he's not even on that. So that's what I'm hopeful.
Alex Winter, Ted Danson.
Alex Winter, Ted Danson, that could be amazing.
All right, we're going to wrap it up there, man. I could speak to you for like another 2 hours, but Bancroft's doing a launch today, so I'd recommend everyone go check out that channel. I like how you've put it's coming out October 12th here. That makes it really easy to know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to commit to a date for people who signed up, because some mailing lists I've signed up to, Rob, you might have as well too, that it's been like 5 months, and you're like, what happened to that? Yeah.
Yeah, too long. Any final words?
If you sign up for the mailing list, if you're not already on it, if you sign up for it, you're gonna get a secret email with a link to a secret perk where you get the nail and goo ash can. That's as another story. It's a cool ash can. You'll get it for free. It'll come with the hardcover book. It's about another monster that's in this universe as Kids and Monsters. It's called Nail and Goo. It's a rad story, and that's what I'm doing as a campaign exclusive item. It'll only live on the campaign. It won't be in the Shopify store later. Is this ash can? And if you get it, if you sign up for the pre-launch, you'll get secret perk that can get it to you for free. Or if you miss it, you can still get it during the campaign as an add-on.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on. I'll have to get you on again. I don't feel like we covered like hardly anything. The time just flew, so it was crazy. Always awesome to have you on. I'll chuck the link in chat. Make sure you go and sign up.
Thank you, friend.
And
thanks, guys, for coming out to hang out and chat with us here, because it's Friday night and you could be anywhere, but you're hanging with CG. So thank you.
Yeah, and go check out the launch on Bancroft's channel. It would have started by now. So go have a look, and we'll see you all later. See you.